Look, everyone's telling you that the market's too saturated, but what if the secret to beating your competitors is literally sitting right in their 1 or 2 star reviews? The thing is, I see this all the time. Someone wants to launch a new product and they look at the competition, right? And then they immediately think, oh my goodness, there's no space left at all. The market's too crowded. All these big brands already have all of the customers and they have so much money. It's impossible for me to win. But did you know that 94% of consumers say that they avoid a business after reading 1 single negative review? Those same negative reviews are a goldmine for new entrepreneurs. And according to research by Bright Local, customers read an average of 10 reviews, 10, before feeling able to trust a business. And so that means they're actively studying your competitors' weaknesses before they go ahead and actually make their purchasing decision. So I've helped hundreds of founders enter into saturated markets and absolutely crush it using the strategy I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. Not because they invented something revolutionary, but because they fixed what was already broken. And so in this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to steal your competitors' 1-star reviews and then turn them into your business's competitive advantage. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a 3-step system for finding gaps in any market and then positioning your product as the no-brainer obvious solution. Step number 1 is collect competitor reviews and find patterns. This is the concept right here. So your competitors have really done all the hard work already. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars on ads, on audiences. And what they've done is they've proven that people want to buy the product. But the thing is, they've also made a lot of mistakes, and that's where the gold is. Their customers are telling everybody about those mistakes in reviews. And so every 1 to 2 star review is someone saying, look, I bought this product hoping that it would solve my problem, but it didn't, because it actually did this instead. And that's the gold, okay? Because if enough people are complaining about the same thing, that's not just, bad luck. It's a real problem that needs to be solved, not to mention all the people that think the same thing but didn't leave the negative review. So here's how to do it. You want to go to Amazon, Google, social media, wherever your competitors are selling, and then find the top 3 to 5 brands in your space, and then start reading their negative reviews, okay? And not the good ones, the bad ones, the 1 to 2 star, 1 to 3 star. 1 can be a little bit misleading because they're the really, really angry people. 2 to 3 star, those are the people who spit the truth. Then what you want to do is document everything and start writing down every complaint you see. Don't judge it yet. Don't think, oh, this is horrible. Just collect everything, right? If someone says, the product broke after a week, write it down. Shipping took forever. I didn't hear from anybody for 14 days. Write it down. It didn't work as advertised. There was way too much expectation in marketing. When I got the product, it didn't even do half of what it said. Write it down. And so do this for 30 minutes per competitor. Use the search function, right? Look for words like disappointed, doesn't work, waste of money. This filters straight to the point and saves you hours of scrolling. I've analyzed over 50,000 reviews across different markets, different products, and I can tell you the same complaints usually appear in kind of clusters, right? And so once you see the same issue mentioned 15, 20, maybe 30 times, you found a pattern worth building something around. Let me show you how this works, okay? I had a client who wanted to launch a dog bed company, very saturated market, tons of competition, right? It seemed very difficult to get in, to find an entry point, but we went through the top 5 dog bed brands on Amazon and we read their worst reviews, okay? And we found something very interesting. Across almost every single brand, the number 1 complaint was the same. It was exactly the same every single time. Getting the bed, opening it up at home, and it would flatten after 2 or 3 weeks. People would buy these dog beds, right? And then the dogs loved them, but then within a month, it would be flat, completely compressed, and the dog was basically sleeping on a blanket on the floor, right? And this wasn't 5 people, this was hundreds of reviews saying the same thing, okay? We literally counted probably 800 plus reviews across 5 different companies, right, that said a very similar thing. And so these big brands, look, they knew this was a problem because it was all over their reviews, but they just weren't doing anything to fix it. And so what we did is we made that our entire focus for the company. And here's exactly why this works. You see, you're not trying to invent a new category or create demand from scratch. The demand already exists. People are buying dog beds or water bottles or supplements. Whatever it is that your product is, people are already out there buying it. You just need to make a version of that product that solves the problem that the current options don't do for the customers. Look, the pet industry alone is worth $136 billion. Dog beds, they're a $2 billion piece of that $136 billion. You don't need to create demand. You just need to redirect demand from existing buyers who are already frustrated. That's the key thing. And that's how you beat saturation. You don't try and be better at everything. We're going to do better quality and faster shipping times and better this and better that. You just need to be better at the one thing that your competitors are actually ignoring. So step number 2, turn the most common complaints into your product features. This is really important. So by now, you've got a list of all of these complaints that you've compiled and put together. Maybe you've spun them up in ChatGPT to look for those patterns and really identify the overlaps. The thing is, you can't fix all of them at once. If you try and solve every problem, your product ends up being mediocre at everything instead of being great at one thing. So there's a term in marketing called positioning paralysis, when brands try and be everything to everyone and they end up being nothing to nobody, all right? So you need to filter which complaints actually show up the most, which complaints are the ones that people are most upset about. Where is the emotion strongest, right? Which ones can you realistically solve better than anybody else doing it? And here's exactly how to do it, right? So go through the list and run this through ChatGPT and look at the amount of times a particular complaint appears. The ones that show up 10, 20, 30 times, and there's strong emotional emphasis behind those complaints, those are your serious options. And the ones that obviously show up once, twice, maybe here or there, and people are a little bit frustrated, probably would not spend too much time on those ones. And then ask yourself, look, can I actually solve this problem in a way that matters and is meaningful for the customer? If people are complaining about bad packaging, certainly can fix that, absolutely. If people are complaining about the price and you can't afford to go lower, probably not a good angle. I'm going to come in and beat the market, right? You're looking for overlap. It's this kind of common problem that customers care deeply about emotionally, and you can solve better than the competition because you just focus on that one thing, right? As an example here, there's a supplement brand called IM8, and they did this just brilliantly, okay? They launched into a market completely dominated by AG1, which is a green powder that sponsors almost like every UFC fighter, podcaster, and they spend millions and millions of dollars on advertising. I think they're valued at $1 billion at the moment. So most people would look at that market and be like, way too big, way too saturated. But IM8 didn't do that. They didn't try and compete head to head. They looked at what AG1 were not doing, okay? It's a green powder. It doesn't have any reds, it doesn't have any antioxidants, and it doesn't have the benefits of red fruits and vegetables. And in the comments and reviews, people were saying, I wish I had reds, or I had to buy a separate reds product. And so what IM8 did is they launched a red powder positioned as the thing that customers were missing. But they weren't fighting the market leader. What they were doing is they were positioning their brand as the gap that the customers had been wanting all along. And so that's the move. Find what they are not doing and do it better, okay? And here's exactly how to do that on a filtered, very specific, operationalized level. Once you've identified the main problem you're going to solve, that then becomes your product's foundation. For my dog bed client, we sourced better materials, more durable fillings for the beds, right? And then specifically designed those fillings to not flatten. That was the whole strategy that underpinned our go-to-market. Yes, it did cost $40 to 50% more to manufacture, but the thing is we could charge 60 to 80% more because we were solving a very painful problem that people were talking about. So the math worked because we weren't competing on price. We were competing on being the only solution that actually worked for the customer long term. Step number 3 is make that solution your entire brand concept. And here's where most people mess this thing up entirely. They build a product that actually solves a real problem, and then they don't make it obvious in their marketing. They mention it somewhere, maybe on their About Us page, or some random bullet point underneath the product display page. It's hidden, and customers don't even realize the product is different. Okay, your unique selling proposition isn't just about having a better product. It's about making absolutely sure that every single person knows exactly why your product is better. And here's exactly how to do it. So once you've identified the main problem you're solving, it needs to be front and center. It needs to be like the tagline your entire company exists under. Your headline, your ads, your product display page, your social media. Everything should reinforce that one message. With the Bezos company that we own, we have this guarantee that says, this is our one white guarantee. That is the strength behind this thing. And here's why this actually works so well, okay? You're not trying to convince someone that they need your product, right? All you're trying to do is you're trying to show them, right, that you've been listening to their complaints and you've built something very specifically for them that solves their problem, and it takes away the pain that they've been experiencing. This is the difference between kind of shouting into the void and having a conversation with somebody that already knows they have a problem and speaking directly to them. Marketing legend that I have on my bookcase up here, Eugene Schwartz, he calls this awareness level marketing. When customers are problem aware, but they're not solution aware. Your job isn't to educate them about the problem because they're already living in it, right? Your job is to position the product as the answer that they've been searching for. And that's why this strategy converts so much higher than traditional brand building. As an example, think about it this way for a moment. If I'm selling a water bottle and I just say, look, this is extremely high quality, it's durable, it keeps drinks cold for hours and hours and hours. That's super generic, right? That's every single water bottle brand on the market. They say the same thing. But if I've done my research and I've found that, the number one complaint about water bottles is that the lids leak, right? And I've designed a water bottle with a completely leak-proof lid, right? Now I have something real to say. My headline becomes, the water bottle that actually won't leak in your bag. My ads then become people throwing confidently the water bottle into their backpack. My reviews specifically highlight leak-proof lids, right? I'm not just another water bottle anymore, all right? I'm the specific solution to a specific frustrating problem. There's a brand called Lark, right? And they did exactly this with self-cleaning water bottles. They didn't try and outcompete the Hydro Flask or Yeti on temperature retention. They didn't try and play the same game, right? What they did is they found out that people were really quite disgusted by the fact of the smell of their water bottles because of the bacteria buildup. And what they did is they built this UVC LED technology into the cap that purifies the water and cleans the bottle. They earned $20 million in revenue in just 2 years after launching that business. And so that's the power of very specific positioning. So here's the big picture. Look, when you do this right, look, you're not competing with big brands on their terms anymore. You're creating your own category. You're the brand that solves the things that they don't. And they also can't because they're so entrenched in doing things the way they're always doing it, right? Which means you can charge more because you're offering something unique for the person specifically. You can grow faster because your message is much more targeted. You can build a loyal customer base because you're actually listening instead of just hoping and guessing and trying to force your product onto people. So I want to pause for a minute and just address the elephant in the room. Saturation, right? Saturation is only a problem when you're trying to compete at the exact same strengths as those businesses, right? If you're selling the same product with the same positioning and the same price and the same ads and the same messaging, you're absolutely going to struggle and it's going to be very difficult, okay? Because like realistically, why would someone choose your new brand over an established brand with 5,000 reviews? You're saying the same things, you're trying to do the same things, you're selling at the same price. Why would anyone do that, right? But when you solve a problem that the market leader is ignoring, everything changes because you're not asking customers to switch for no reason, right? You're giving them a real tangible benefit that they can't get anywhere else. Look at the mattress industry, for example. In 2010, everyone said it was impossible to compete, right? Sealy, Serta, Tempur-Pedic owned the market, right? Then Casper launched in 2014 with one single insight from customer reviews. They didn't make a revolutionary mattress. They made the buying process very simple, and they also made it just frankly suck less. Direct to door, 100-night trial, no showrooms, no walking in there and speaking to salespeople, and they hit $100 million in revenue in 2 years. Then Purple came along and they did it again by solving a different complaint of mattresses sleeping way too hot. Okay, now they're doing $500 million annually. Here's how new brands can win using this strategy. Think about every major market, right? Smartphones, mattresses, meal kits, skincare, fitness equipment. Look, all of these things, they're incredibly saturated, and yet new brands are launching every single day and they're winning as well. And how they're winning is because they're not trying to be everything to everyone, all right? They're finding very, very specific groups of people who are unhappy with current options that are being provided to them by the big brands in the market. Now, the founders who fail here are the ones that try and outspend the big brands or copy what's already working, okay? And the founders that win are the ones that do the research. They find the gaps and they exploit the gaps, and then they fill them strategically with one specific mechanism to solve that problem better than anybody else. I'm going to leave you with this, right? Jeff Bezos has a famous principle called customer obsession. He doesn't just listen to his own customers. Amazon studies every competitor's market to find the gaps in the market, right? When you see Amazon launch a new Amazon Basics product, right, it's almost always because they found patterns or complaints about existing products in that category, right? If it works for a $1 trillion company, it'll probably work for your startup, right? And so here's what to do right now if you just listen to this video and you're like, I got it. I've got to sharpen up my messaging. Go out there and find 3 to 5 of your competitors. Spend 1, 2, 3 hours reading their reviews. Find the patterns, identify the gaps in those patterns. See how you can implement those problems into your product categories and win by solving those things. Your competitors already proved that there is demand, right? All you have to do is give those customers a better option. If this video helped you, subscribe for more content on building and scaling brands in hyper-competitive markets. I'll see you on the next one.